This video is brought to you by Squarespace. If you need a website or a domain, go to squarespace.com. Hey everyone, and welcome to a new video. One of the most misunderstood and feared settings on your camera is your ISO. People talk about it like your camera will explode if it goes too high, or your photo is ruined if it goes over 400. The reality is, ISO is not your enemy. It's an enabler. That's right, the ISO setting allows you to take photos that you might not get otherwise. In this video, I'll help you understand what ISO is for, and more importantly, what attributes it unlocks and how to properly set it when in the field. And my bonus tip at the end is going to go against the grain, so be prepared for lots of comments below. My name is Simon D'Entremont, and I'm a professional nature and wildlife photographer living in Eastern Canada. I make weekly videos giving you photo tips or taking you behind the scenes for nature photography. Subscribe if you want to see more. So I'm not going to go over every detail about how ISO technically works, but you can see that here. Make sure you come back. In short, ISO isn't sensitivity to light like is often taught. That's a holdover from film. ISO is an electronic gain or amplification setting on your camera that amplifies the signal coming from the sensor to make images brighter. Most of us are taught the exposure triangle, the three sources of light your camera settings control: shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. The challenge is, this isn't right. Exposure is defined as the amount of light hitting your sensor. And as I just mentioned, ISO isn't real light. So what is it really then? There are three sources of light to your camera sensor. Real photons are indeed longer shutter speeds and larger apertures, and brighter scenes and subjects. These are the only three real sources of light. Now, why is this important? ISO is a setting on your camera to help manage the brightness of the image when the real sources of light aren't enough to properly expose your photo. When it's too dark, using a higher ISO makes the image brighter until its brightness is what you want to see in your final photo. Since these three variables are what controls the brightness of your image, your ISO setting is inextricably linked to these three. Let's start off with shutter speed. One of the most important aspects of shutter speed is to use it creatively to freeze movement, camera movement, or subject movement. Faster subject movement needs faster, also called shorter, shutter speeds to capture it without blur in your image. And camera shake can also be controlled with faster shutter speeds. But there's a trade-off. Faster shutter speeds let in less light onto the sensor, resulting in darker images. So as I increase the shutter speed here to freeze the action, the subject gets sharply frozen, but the image gets darker. To get the exposure back to what I see with my eyes, I need to raise the ISO, that is, electronically magnify the signal so that the image is the right brightness. So in this situation, a higher ISO is needed, is enabling me to use a higher shutter speed to freeze my subject. Faster action, higher ISOs. Now let's look at the second variable, aperture. Aperture controls your depth of field, that is, how deep the area in focus is within your photo. When you use a wide open aperture, that is a small f number like f1.8 or 2.8, the lens is letting in lots of light and your depth of field is thin, leading to blurry backgrounds. This is desired in some genres like portraits or wildlife. But in other genres, people want deep depths of field so that maybe lots of things in the photo are in focus, like several people standing front to back, or a landscape shot where you want everything in the scene in focus. You might use a small aperture like f8 for this. But again, there's a trade-off. You see, smaller apertures let in less light onto your sensor. This makes the image darker. Again, ISO to the rescue. To get the image brighter again, after having made the aperture smaller, you raise the ISO, the electronic amplification to the image brightness, to get it where you want it. And finally, there's the third variable on how much light gets to your sensor, scene or subject brightness. Quite logically, darker scenes will lead to fewer photons on your sensor and need more brightening, that is, higher ISOs. So as our scene gets darker, we need higher ISOs to get the image the right brightness, like I'm doing here. So higher ISOs enable you to shoot in darker situations with less light. Maybe street photography at night, dark concert venues, or dark wedding venues. Now we should also note these low light challenges are additive. That is, if you have fast action you want to freeze, want to get the whole scene in focus, and the venue is dark, they all reduce the amount of light and you need even more extra brightness with ISO, meaning a really high ISO. like musicians jumping around on a dark stage at a concert. Well, you may say, well, no problem, just keep cranking up that ISO, right? Well, we were talking about trade-offs earlier, and here's another one. Image noise leading to poor image quality. I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. If you haven't heard of them, they're an all-in-one website platform that helps you create your website from scratch, just like I did. You don't need any coding experience or even to be tech savvy. They have lots of templates to choose from to make it easy to get your own website up and running in no time. But even though they have great templates, like ones for photography, for example, the place to go now is to use their new Design Intelligence feature, using both Squarespace's experience and cutting-edge AI, helping you to tailor your own website to your own specific needs. It really looks professional to have online galleries and your own domain. And a website is also a great way to monetize your work by setting up an online store using Squarespace payments, which you can set up with just a few clicks. You can even do buy now and pay later with options like Afterpay. Go to squarespace.com to sign up for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Simon for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Now we have to clear something up right now. There is a correlation between high ISO and noise, but it's a correlation, not causation. Noise is a result of a poor signal-to-noise ratio, not enough photons on your sensor. As we saw earlier, when there's not enough light on our sensor, we must raise the ISO to make the image brighter. But the image was noisy before we raised the ISO. ISO doesn't cause noisy images. Noisy images lead to high ISOs. Here's proof. Here are two images, both at ISO 25,000, but one has a larger aperture and one a smaller one. The larger aperture photo is brighter and the one with a smaller aperture darker. If I make the darker image the same brightness as the light one, see how much more noise the darker image has. And both at the same ISO. Now I know someone will say, well, raising the brightness in processing is what caused the noise in the darker image. Well, what if I change the brightness of each image to meet in the middle in terms of brightness? Still, the photo with more photons, regardless of ISO, is cleaner. And if I lower the brightness of the bright image to that of the darker image, still, again, same result. Really high ISO images are noisy because the original was really dark and had not enough light to create a clean image. So what the heck does this have to do with my photography and getting better, higher quality photos? Well, we've seen that high ISOs are a result of not having enough light to get a clean image, a good signal-to-noise ratio. As for low ISOs, 100 and on some cameras 50 or 64 is often the lowest ISO setting. This means your photo is well exposed to light and needs no boosting of brightness using the ISO. This is the ideal scenario. Very low ISOs correspond with really good image quality and lack of noise. High ISOs will correlate with noisy images. Now, the larger the sensors, the better the noise performance. On a full-frame camera, you may be okay with the noise in your images up to ISO 12,800. On a crop or APS-C sensor, maybe 6400 and 3200 on micro four thirds. Everyone's tolerance for noise is different, so this limit is up to you. Now we know the three variables that control how much light we have on our sensor, and hence our ISO setting. The trick is to manage these three variables in a way that allows more light onto the sensor when possible, allowing the use of the lower ISOs, which will correlate with cleaner images. If your ISO is too high in a scenario, you can lower it by adjusting these three variables. You can make your shutter speed longer, which will brighten your image to the point that it's too bright, allowing you to lower your ISO again. Your images will be cleaner with less noise as you've let in more light. Note that this will not freeze the action as well, so it comes with a trade-off. You can also make the aperture larger, allowing more light, leading to a lower ISO, again with a trade-off for having a shallower depth of field. And finally, you can add more light. An LED panel perhaps, or a flash, or choose a brighter part of the day to shoot, or shoot outdoors rather than indoors. As the photographer, you need to decide which of these trade-offs you can live with without negatively affecting your photo. If the shutter speed isn't critical, use a tripod to allow a really long exposure without the camera moving. If your depth of field isn't critical, use a wider aperture, or get a group of people in a photo to stand side by side instead of front to back so they'll all be in the same focus plane. Or bring the subject to a window to get more light without changing the shutter speed or aperture. Hey, by the way, sign up for my email list and you can download my free guide on shooting in backlit situations. Link below. Now my tip that may rile some feathers. Most people are taught to set their ISO first. I recommend you set your ISO last, for a couple of reasons. One, ISO is the least of the creative settings on your camera. Shutter speed and aperture have way more critical impact on the creative aspects of your photos, the way your photo will look artistically. 2. Setting the ISO first is a holdover from film, where the speed, equivalent to the ISO, was preset into the film and you needed to shoot that whole roll at a set speed. My take is that you should first pick the shutter speed you want to freeze the action, then the aperture you want to have the depth of field that you want, and finally, the ISO needed to get the right exposure, 200, 400, 800, 1600, whatever is needed to get the right brightness of the photo. Now, if your ISO is too high, like 25,000, then you can't get what you want. You can't have fast shutter speeds and a deep depth of field and handhold your camera in a dark venue with fast-moving subjects. You need to play with your 3 variables until you can get your ISO at a level that's acceptable. Your job as the photographer is to understand which of these variables is okay to be flexible with and which aren't negotiable. So in full bright sun, ISO 100 may often be enough to freeze action and even get a deep depth of field. Really fast action with a little bit less light may need ISO 800. Getting the whole scene in focus on a gloomy day may need ISO 1600. And getting fast action shots in low light or shooting a music concert or maybe the Milky Way may need ISO 6400. One exception is noting that you can cheat these by using a tripod when your shutter speed gets really low. Given you can now use really long shutter speeds like several seconds to gather as much light as needed, ISO 100 becomes possible and you can set that right away. A second exception is if you want to take advantage of a dual gain sensor. That's when your camera has a high gain mode for higher ISOs, switching to electronics that yield better results at the high ISO. Like in this case, we're shooting at ISO 400 may actually be better than ISO 320. That being said, the noise level at these low ISOs is so low that I don't really bother with doing so. And now a suggestion to make all of this much easier. Auto ISO. That's when you let your camera pick the ISO for you. Now you can use auto ISO in shutter priority, TV mode, or aperture priority, AV mode, but my favorite way of implementing this is to shoot in manual with auto ISO. Shooting this way, I set the shutter speed I need, I choose the aperture I need, and I let the camera adjust the image brightness. All of these photos were shot using this technique. Give it a try. If this video is deserving, give it a like and YouTube will show it to even more photographers looking to help setting their ISO. And I hope that you can use these tips the next time you go out so you too can get your own unique and amazing photos. I know you can do it.